The silver research vessel of the Galactic Federation hung in orbit around Earth, its observation arrays capturing every detail of the blue planet below. Director Tahoe stood at the viewing platform, his tall, slender form cast in the blue glow of holographic displays. His six-fingered hands clasped behind his back as he studied the data streaming in. Fascinating, he murmured, watching humans go about their daily lives in cities across the planet. They build and adapt with such limited resources. Behind him, Commander Ju snorted with disdain. The Vexstar officer's scaled skin shimmered under the ship's lights as he approached. Unlike the willowy form of Tahoe, Ju was built like a predator, compact, muscular, with sharp teeth barely hidden behind his thin lips. They are soft creatures, Ju said, barely worth studying. No natural protection, no claws, weak muscles. How did they even survive to develop technology? Tahoe turned to face the Vexstar. That is precisely what makes them interesting, Commander. They should not have survived, and yet here they are, building cities and reaching for the stars. A curiosity, nothing more, Ju said with a dismissive wave. Science Officer Yuna joined them, her data tablet clutched in her forearms. Director, you should see this. The humans have developed faster than our models predicted. They have permanent settlements on their moon and Mars now. Tahoe's eyes widened. Already? Our last deep scan was only 15 cycles ago. They move quickly, Yuna said, and they work together in ways we didn't expect. Ju leaned over to look at her tablet, his expression unchanged. Primitive shelters. They would die without their technology. Perhaps, Tahoe said, but they built that technology from nothing but their minds and hands. That is worth respect. The debate might have continued, but alarms suddenly flashed throughout the observation deck. The ship's systems had detected something approaching from Earth. Report, Tahoe demanded. The ship's navigator, Minho, worked his control panel quickly. A human vessel. Director. It appears to be a research craft. They've altered course to intercept us. Impossible, Ju said. Our cloaking systems are not designed to hide from primitive radar, Yuna finished. The humans use different detection methods than the standard in our part of the galaxy. Tahoe paced the deck. This is not how first contact was supposed to happen. The Council wanted another 50 cycles of observation before any interaction. Shall I destroy the human vessel? Ju asked, his hand already moving to the weapons controls. No, Tahoe and Yuna said at the same time. Tahoe moved between Ju and the controls. We are scientists, not warriors. Federation law is clear. No harm to developing species. Then what do you suggest, Director? Ju asked, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Tahoe thought for a moment. We will speak with them. A limited exchange. We must minimize the impact on their development. The human vessel, small and ungainly compared to the sleek Federation ship, drew closer. Its external lights blinked in patterns, an attempt at communication. They're broadcasting radio signals, Minho reported. Audio and visual data. Let us see them, Tahoe ordered. The main screen filled with the image of a human face, female, middle-aged by their standards, with determination in her eyes. Unknown vessel, this is Captain Soman of the Earth Space Research Mission. We come in peace and wish to establish dialogue. Please respond. Tahoe stepped forward. Prepare translation matrix. I will speak with them. Ju grabbed his arm. This violates Council protocol. They have already seen us, Tahoe replied. The violation has occurred. Now we must manage it. The communication link opened, and Captain Soman's eyes widened as she saw the non-human faces on her screen. To her credit, she maintained her composure. Greetings from Earth, she said simply. Greetings, Captain Soman, Tahoe replied through the translator. I am Director Tahoe of the Galactic Federation research vessel Star's Eye. We apologize for our presence in your system. We were conducting peaceful observations. You've been watching us? Soman asked, her voice steady despite the momentous nature of the conversation. Yes, we study developing worlds. Your species has shown remarkable progress. Juwu moved into view of the communication array. Your detection of our vessel was unexpected. Your technology should not be capable of this. Soman smiled slightly. We're full of surprises. The conversation continued for nearly an hour. Tahoe tried to limit the information shared, but the humans were clever with their questions. By the end, more had been revealed than the Federation protocol allowed. The Council will not be pleased, Yuma said after the communication ended and the human ship began its return journey to Earth. No, Tahoe agreed, but it could not be helped. Juwu had been unusually quiet during the latter part of the exchange. Now he turned to Tahoe with narrowed eyes. Did you notice how quickly they adapted their communication to match ours? How they showed no fear, only curiosity? These humans are unpredictable. Yes, Tahoe said. That is what makes them interesting. That is what makes them dangerous, Juwu countered. 3 days later, the Federation Council convened an emergency session. The Star's Eye had returned to Federation space and transmitted all data from the unauthorized first contact. The council chamber was filled with representatives from 100 species. Some were physically present, others attended via hologram. The atmosphere was tense. High Counselor Bumsuck, ancient even by the long-lived standards of his species, called for order. Director Tahoe, explain how this breach of protocol occurred. Tahoe stood before the council, his report prepared. The humans detected our vessel using methods our sensors did not anticipate. Rather than flee or attack, they approached with peaceful intent. I judged the communication was preferable to simply disappearing, which might have frightened them. And what is your assessment of these humans now that you have spoken with them? Asked Counselor Jihai of the Merchant Worlds. They are adaptable, curious, and surprisingly unafraid of difference, Tahoe replied. Their technology is primitive by our standards, but advancing rapidly. Most importantly, they seem eager for peaceful contact. Ambassador Hyun of the Diplomatic Court rose to speak. I have reviewed the communication records. These humans show potential, but they are fragmented as a species. They have many nations, many leaders. This complicates any relationship we might establish. They should be contained, Juwu said bluntly from his position among the Vexstar delegation. They adapt too quickly. They ask too many questions. In time, they could become a threat. Murmurs spread through the chamber. The Vexstar rarely spoke at council meetings unless military matters were being discussed. A threat? Counselor Jihai asked. Their technology is centuries behind ours. Technology can be acquired, Juwu replied. It is their nature that concerns me. They are unpredictable. The debate continued for hours. Some argued for immediate formal contact with Earth's governments. Others insisted on a return to covered observation. The Vexstar delegation pushed for quarantine measures. In the end, Ambassador Hyun raised her hand for attention. When the chamber quieted, she spoke clearly. I propose a middle path. We vote for non-interference for now. No contact, no interference, but also no special restrictions. We will watch and wait until they reach deeper space on their own. These humans are unpredictable, yes, but also showing signs of wisdom. Let us give them time to develop further before we judge them. The vote was taken. Non-interference passed by a narrow margin. As the council adjourned, Tahoe found himself walking beside Juwu in the grand hallway. You should be pleased, Tahoe said. Your concerns were heard. Juwu's expression was unreadable. Today, perhaps. But I know your kind, Director. You scientists are fascinated by these humans. You will push for more contact eventually. Perhaps someday, Tahoe admitted, when they are ready. And if they are never ready? Juwu asked. If they remain unpredictable, emotional creatures who ask too many questions. Tahoe had no answer. As they parted ways, he wondered if Juwu's concerns might have merit. The humans had indeed surprised them all. What other surprises might they have in store for the galaxy? 3 years passed peacefully since the first contact between the Galactic Federation and Earth. The Federation maintained its distance, observing but not interfering as humans expanded their presence in their solar system. The Mars colony grew from a small research outpost to a thriving settlement of 5,000 people. Colonel Doyen stood at the command center of Earth Defense Station Orbital 7, his eyes fixed on the large display screen showing incoming transmissions from Mars. His normally calm demeanor was replaced with growing concern. "Play it again," he ordered. The communications officer nodded and reactivated the message. The face of Dr. Jisu, Mars colony's chief administrator, appeared on screen. Her expression was tense, her voice hurried. "This is Mars colony, sending emergency alert. Unknown vessels have entered orbit. They're not responding to hails. They're not Earth vessels. I repeat, they are not." The message cut off in static. "When did we lose contact?" Doyen asked. 17 minutes ago, sir," the officer replied. "No response to our calls since then." Doyen's fingers drummed against the console. Earth knew about aliens now. The information had been classified, but had spread through government circles after the first contact incident. But the Federation had promised non-interference. Something was wrong. "Alert Earth Command," Doyen ordered, "and prepare my shuttle." 8 hours later, an emergency response team was assembled and racing toward Mars. Doyen led 3 ships filled with Earth's best military personnel. They still had no contact with the Mars colony, and satellite imagery showed unknown vessels in Martian orbit. "Sir," his pilot said, "we're picking up energy readings ahead. They don't match any known Earth signatures." Doyen leaned forward. "Show me." The screen displayed 3 ships unlike anything Earth had built. They were angular, predatory in design, hovering over Mars colony like hunters. "Try to hail them," Doyen ordered. Before they could send a signal, one of the alien ships turned and fired a warning shot across their path. "Evasive maneuvers," Doyen shouted. The Earth ships scattered, barely avoiding more direct hits. Their vessels weren't designed for combat. They were transport and rescue craft with minimal defenses. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the surface," the communications officer reported. The screen flickered to life, showing Dr. Jisu again. Her face was smudged with dirt, and she was in a dimly lit area that Doyen recognized as one of the mining tunnels beneath the colony. "Colonel Doyen," she said, her voice hushed. "Don't approach directly. The aliens, they call themselves Vexstar. They're hunting people through the colony." "Hunting," Doyen repeated in disbelief. "Yes, they landed 3 hours ago and announced they were conducting a hunting exercise. They said we were prey." Her voice broke. "We've evacuated as many people as possible into the mining tunnels. They're pursuing us." Doyen's mind raced. "How many attackers?" "About 30, armed with advanced weapons." "Colonel, they're not like the aliens we met before. These ones look different, more reptilian, aggressive. Hold position. We'll find a way to help." Doyen ended the transmission and turned to his team. "We can't win a space battle with those ships. We need to get to the surface and help our people." The plan they developed was desperate but their only option. Using Mars itself as cover, they would land on the far side of the planet from the alien ships, then approach the colony using the mining rovers stationed at the secondary research base. The landing was tense but successful. As they transferred to the rugged Mars rovers, Doyen briefed his team. "These aliens have superior weapons and technology, but they don't know the colony like our people do. The miners have been digging tunnels under Mars for years." The team raced across the red landscape, maintaining radio silence. When they reached the main colony, they found a horrifying scene. Several habitat domes were damaged, and there were signs of weapons fire everywhere. They entered through an emergency airlock and followed the sounds of conflict. In the central plaza, they found their first Vexstar hunters. 3 tall, scaled aliens with natural armor and sharp teeth. They were trying to break into a sealed research lab where humans had barricaded themselves. Doyen signaled to his team. They had brought the best weapons Earth had, but he knew they might not be enough against advanced alien technology. To their surprise, their first volley of shots was effective. The Vexstar had come prepared to hunt what they considered unarmed prey, not to face organized resistance. One went down immediately, while the other two took cover. Weak creatures. One of the Vexstar shouted in roughly translated English. You were supposed to run, not fight. Doyen didn't waste time responding. He signaled his team to advance, using the colony's structures as cover. The Vexstar fired back with energy weapons that melted through metal where they hit. The sound of the battle drew more Vexstar hunters. Soon, Doyen's team was pinned down near the central hub. Sir, his second-in-command whispered, we're outnumbered. We need another strategy. At that moment, Doyen's radio crackled to life. It was Dr. Jisu again. Colonel, we have a plan. Get your people to Section C and seal the doors behind you. What are you planning? Doyen asked. The miners are collapsing selected tunnels. We're going to trap the hunters. Doyen understood immediately. Everyone, fall back to Section C. Move. His team retreated, drawing the Vexstar hunters after them through the colony corridors. As they passed through Section C's heavy doors, they slammed them shut and engaged the emergency locks. Moments later, they felt the ground shake. The miners had detonated controlled explosions in the support tunnels beneath the hunting party. Sections of the colony floor collapsed, dropping the Vexstar 20 meters down into mining shafts. Dr. Jisu emerged from a side passage with a group of miners and colonists. We've trapped about half of them, she reported. The others are still in the northern quadrants. Doyen nodded grimly. My team will handle them. You've given us the advantage we needed. The battle continued for hours. The humans, despite their technological disadvantage, used their knowledge of the colony's layout to set traps and ambushes. They collapsed more tunnels, sealed Vexstar in airlocks, and in one creative move, reprogrammed mining robots to disable alien weapons. The Vexstar, who had expected an easy hunt against helpless prey, found themselves facing an enemy that refused to behave as expected. Humans did not run in panic. They organized, cooperated, and fought back with unexpected resourcefulness. Just as the tide was turning, alarms sounded throughout the colony. More ships entering orbit, reported one of Doyen's officers. Everyone tensed, expecting reinforcements for the Vexstar. Instead, a new voice came over all communication channels. Attention Vexstar hunting party. This is Federation Peacekeeping Fleet Gamma. You are in violation of multiple Federation laws, including the Non-Interference Directive regarding Earth and its colonies. Stand down immediately. Through the colony's external cameras, they watched as massive ships surrounded the smaller Vexstar vessels. The new arrivals dwarfed both the hunting party's ships and Earth's rescue vessels. On the surface, the remaining Vexstar hunters received the communication. Their leader, a scared warrior named Captain Juwu, snarled in frustration. This hunt is not over, he announced to the humans who had him surrounded. You have shamed us today, but we will not forget. Federation peacekeepers landed soon after, led by Director Tayo, who looked both angry and embarrassed as he approached Colonel Doyen. On behalf of the Galactic Federation, I extend our deepest apologies, Tayo said formally. The Vexstar acted against our explicit instructions. They will face consequences. Doyen's fingers trembled as he reviewed the casualty reports. 23 colonists dead, dozens injured. Your apologies won't bring back our dead, he said flatly. Tayo bowed his head. I know. This incident will change how the Federation views your species. The Vexstar expected to find easy prey. Instead, they found worthy opponents who protected their own against superior technology. As the Vexstar were escorted to the Federation ships, Captain Juwu passed by Doyen. The alien commander stopped briefly. This insult will not stand, he promised darkly. Your people humiliated elite Vexstar hunters with primitive tools and trickery. Doyen met his gaze steadily. Then perhaps you should reconsider what makes a species strong. It's not just teeth and claws. The Federation ships departed with the Vexstar in custody. As they left orbit, reports flooded in from Earth. The incident had been detected, and humanity now knew without doubt that they were not alone in the universe, and that not all aliens came in peace. In the aftermath, Colonel Doyen stood with Dr. Jisu watching the reconstruction efforts. "They'll come back, won't they?" she asked quietly. Doyen nodded. "The Vexstar. I think they will. But next time, we'll be ready." What neither of them knew was that across the galaxy, the Federation Council was already convening an emergency session. The incident at Mars Colony would change everything. The Federation Council chamber fell silent as Elder Minji of the Culinary species approached the central podium. Her small form moved with deliberate grace, the light catching on her silvery skin. Unlike the tall, willowy Tahoe or the muscular Vexstar, the Culinary were short and slight, but they were among the oldest and most respected species in the Federation. "Honorable Council members," Elder Minji began, her voice soft yet carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. "I have studied the recordings from the Mars incident. What I found requires our immediate attention." The holographic display activated behind her, showing footage from the Vexstar hunters' own recording devices. The images were clear, humans running through the Mars colony, Vexstar in pursuit. But then the footage showed something unexpected. "Observe," Minji said, pointing to the display. "The humans appear to be fleeing in panic. This is what the Vexstar expected." The footage continued. The fleeing humans suddenly split into organized groups. Some created distractions while others set up ambushes. They used mining equipment in ways it was never designed for. Cutting tools became weapons. Excavators became barricades. "They are not merely running," Minji continued. "They are communicating, coordinating, adapting their strategy in real time." The council members watched as the footage showed humans deliberately collapsing tunnels, trapping Vexstar hunting parties underneath the colony. High Counselor Bumsuck leaned forward. "They sacrificed parts of their own colony to defeat the hunters." "Yes," Minji nodded. "What appears at first to be desperate destruction is actually calculated strategy. They valued lives over infrastructure." The final scenes showed Colonel Doyen's team working seamlessly with the colonists, despite having just arrived. Without lengthy explanations, the two groups coordinated their efforts as if they had trained together for years. When the footage ended, Elder Minji turned to face the council directly. "What we witnessed was not luck. It was not simple survival instinct. It was something we have rarely seen in the galaxy. A species that becomes more organized, more effective, more dangerous when threatened." Federation Secretary Jono, who oversaw classification of new species, rose from his seat. "Elder Minji, what are you suggesting?" "I am suggesting that we have fundamentally misunderstood humans," Minji replied. "We classify them as a standard developing species. This was an error." She gestured, and the display changed to show historical records. "Throughout our long history, the Federation has encountered many species. Some were physically powerful, some technologically advanced, some numerically superior. But a very few, possessed something different. The ability to transform under pressure, to become more than the sum of their parts when facing adversity." The images showed records of other species that had surprised the Federation in the past. Most were now extinct or had joined the Federation as equals. "The last such species we encountered was the Culinary, my own people, 5,000 years ago," Minji said quietly. "Before that, the Andorians, who now lead our science divisions." High Counselor Bumsuck's expression was grave. "You believe humans belong in this rare category?" "I do," Minji confirmed, "and I believe we must act accordingly." From the Vexstar section, Captain Juwu rose. His scales were dull, a sign of the disgrace he had suffered since the failed hunt. "The humans got lucky," he growled. They were fighting on their territory, with our hunt team under strict orders not to destroy the colony completely. In a real conflict. In a real conflict. Minji interrupted, her voice suddenly sharp. They would be even more formidable. Captain, did you review what the humans did with the mining explosives? Jumu fell silent. They modified industrial explosives into weapons within hours, Minji continued. They reprogrammed maintenance robots to disable your hunter's equipment. They adapted faster than your warriors could respond. She turned back to the council. Now imagine what they might do if truly threatened on a larger scale, if Earth itself were at risk. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some council members dismissed the concerns, while others appeared deeply troubled. Federation Secretary Junho raised his hands for silence. What do you propose, Elder Minji? I propose a new classification for humans. Deceptively resilient, Minji replied. And I propose a special protection order. The debate continued for hours. The Vexstar delegation argued against special treatment, suggesting instead that humans simply be quarantined to their solar system. Trading species saw potential in human creativity and wanted limited contact. Scientific representatives, including Director Taiyo, advocated for careful study. As the arguments circled without resolution, Elder Minji spoke again. Council members, we are making the same mistake the Vexstar hunters made. We are judging humans by what we see on the surface, a physically unimpressive species with limited technology. But beneath that surface lies something remarkable. She activated a final recording. It showed the aftermath of the Mars incident. A trapped Vexstar hunter, injured and unable to move, lay in one of the collapsed tunnels. According to Vexstar tradition, a defeated warrior would expect death. Instead, the footage showed human medical personnel treating the alien's injuries. They helped those who came to hunt them, Minji said softly, not out of weakness, but out of a strength we rarely see, the ability to show compassion to an enemy. The chamber went quiet. Federation Secretary Junho nodded slowly. I propose a vote on Elder Minji's recommendation. A new classification for humans, and a formal protection order. The vote was taken. Despite opposition from the Vexstar and a few allied species, the motion passed overwhelmingly. It is decided, High Counselor Bumsiak announced. Humans are hereby classified as deceptively resilient. A formal protection order will be issued to all Federation species. The official decree was drafted immediately. Across the galaxy, on thousands of worlds and vessels, communication systems chimed with a priority message. The directive was simple but firm. Humans are off limits. We don't harm them. The message included data on human appearance, their known colonies, and reasons for the protection order. Many species were confused. The humans looked unremarkable, their technology primitive by galactic standards. In the Federation archives, Elder Minji recorded her private thoughts on the decision. Many will question this protection order, she dictated. They will see humans as weak, as prey, as no threat to advanced species. This is precisely what makes humans dangerous. They are constantly underestimated. The Vexstar learned this lesson at great cost to their pride. Others would learn it at greater cost still. On the Vexstar homeworld, the hunting incident became a source of shame. The returning hunters were stripped of rank and honor. But in the barracks and training grounds, the story spread in whispers. Some dismissed it as a fluke, but others, especially the younger warriors, began to question their elders' assessment of humans. Captain Juwu, now demoted and disgraced, sat alone in his quarters reviewing the Mars footage again and again. His obsession grew with each viewing. How had simple prey animals defeated elite Vexstar hunters? The question burned in his mind, consuming his thoughts. They will pay for this humiliation, he muttered to himself. Federation protection, or not. Meanwhile, on Earth, humanity continued its expansion into space, unaware of the special status they had been granted. The Mars incident had been explained to the public as a rare hostile encounter that had been resolved with the help of peaceful alien allies. The full truth, that they had been hunted as prey and had impressed an entire galactic community with their response, remained classified. Colonel Doyen, now promoted to general, stood before the newly formed Earth Defense Council. "We got lucky this time," he told them. "We had home ground advantage. But we need to prepare for the possibility that not all species in the galaxy see us as friends." Across the table, Dr. Jisu nodded in agreement. Her experience on Mars had transformed her from a scientific administrator to a key advisor on alien relations. "The Federation seems peaceful overall," she said, "but this Vexstar species clearly sees us differently. We need to understand why." What they couldn't know was that the Federation's warning, "Humans are off limits," would soon be tested. For not all species respected Federation rulings, and some, like the humiliated Vexstar, had scores to settle. Elder Minji sensed this as she left the council chamber. The protection order was just the beginning. The real test would come when someone inevitably defied it. "May the humans prove me right," she whispered to herself. "For their sake, and for the galaxies." Security Officer Kyung moved silently through the corridors of the Federation diplomatic station. Her heart raced as she checked over her shoulder again. What she was about to do would end her career, possibly her life. But she couldn't stand by and watch a massacre happen. She reached the secure communication room and quickly entered the override codes she had memorized. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, she worked quickly, bypassing the normal channels to establish a direct link to Earth. "This is Federation Security Officer Kyung with an urgent message for Earth Defense Command. Priority Alpha. Authentication code Starfall 739. She waited anxiously as Earth systems verified her credentials. Finally, a face appeared on the screen. General Doyen himself. "Officer Kyung, this is unexpected," he said cautiously. "General, I don't have much time," Kyung said, her voice hushed. "The Vexstar are planning to attack Earth directly. A full battle fleet is already moving through Sector 12. Doyen's expression hardened. "The Federation is allowing this." "No, they're acting against direct orders. The Federation Council doesn't know yet." She quickly transferred the data she had collected. Fleet movements, ship specifications, weapons capabilities. Information that would normally never be shared with a protected species. "The Vexstar fleet comes in force," she continued. "They refuse to acknowledge the protection order. Their war chief Juwu leads them personally." "Juwu," Doyen repeated, recognizing the name from the Mars incident. "Yes, he was demoted after Mars, but he's gathered support among those who feel humiliated by being defeated by humans." Kyung hesitated. "General, I must warn you. They're bringing their full war capabilities. This won't be like Mars." "Why are you telling us this?" Doyen asked. "You're risking everything." Kyung thought of her human friend, a diplomat she had met during a cultural exchange. "Because the Federation's ideals matter to me. We don't allow genocide. I have to go now. Good luck, General." She terminated the connection and quickly erased all evidence of the transmission. As she left the communication room, she wondered if her warning would be enough. On Earth, General Doyen gathered the Defense Council immediately. Representatives from all major Earth nations crowded into the secure bunker beneath Geneva. "The data is clear," Doyen told them, displaying Officer Kyung's intelligence on the main screen. "The Vexstar battle fleet will reach our solar system in 9 days. Their weapons technology far exceeds our own." "Can we evacuate civilians to the moon base?" "To Mars?" asked the representative from Japan. "There's no time," replied Dr. Jisu, now Earth's chief advisor on alien affairs. "And nowhere would be safe anyway. The Vexstar ships can strike any point in our system." "What about the Federation?" asked the American representative. "Won't they stop this?" Officer Kyung indicated they don't know yet. Doyen explained. "By the time they discover the Vexstar plan and mobilize, it could be too late." The room fell silent as the reality sank in. Humanity faced an enemy with vastly superior technology and a desire for revenge. Finally, Doyen spoke again. "We don't have their technology, but we have something they don't expect." "What's that, General?" asked several voices. "They expect us to fight like them, with big ships and direct confrontation. But that's not how we won on Mars, and it's not how we'll win now." Over the next 8 days, Earth prepared for battle unlike anything in its history. Every nation contributed resources and personnel to a unified defense plan. Scientists and engineers worked around the clock, modifying existing technology for new purposes. Satellite networks were reprogrammed. Mining ships were recalled from the asteroid belt. Civilian spacecraft were retrofitted. And in low Earth orbit, a new kind of defensive grid took shape. Not the heavy battleships the Vexstar would expect, but thousands of small, fast vessels with minimal crews. "They're arriving," announced the sensor officer at Earth Defense Command. On the main display, they watched as the Vexstar fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. 20 large warships, bristling with weapons. "No sign of Federation peacekeepers," someone said grimly. "We're on our own," Doyen replied. "Just as we expected. Launch Operation Swarm." Across Earth, launch facilities fired thousands of small craft into orbit. Some were military, but many were repurposed civilian vessels. Each carried only 2 or 3 crew members and seemed laughably small compared to the massive Vexstar warships. "What is this?" War Chief Juwu demanded as his sensors detected the human response. "Where are their capital ships? Their defense platforms?" "They don't appear to have any, War Chief," his sensor officer replied. "Only these small craft. Thousands of them." Juwu laughed harshly. "They sent toys against us. Begin the attack. Target their major cities first." The Vexstar fleet moved deeper into the solar system, their weapons powering up. But as they approached Mars orbit, the human strategy became clear. The small Earth vessels didn't form battle lines. Instead, they swarmed around the Vexstar ships like insects, too numerous and too fast to target effectively. For every one the Vexstar weapons destroyed, 10 more took its place. "What are they doing?" Juwu growled as his flagship shuddered. The tiny human ships weren't attacking directly. They were attaching devices to the hulls of the Vexstar vessels. "War Chief, our engines are failing," reported his engineer. "Some kind of electromagnetic pulse weapon." Another Vexstar ship reported its weapon systems going offline. A third lost life support and had to divert power from weapons to keep its crew alive. "This is impossible," Juwu snarled. "They are primitive. They cannot defeat our technology." But the evidence was before his eyes. The human ships continued their relentless swarm tactics. They avoided direct confrontation, using the vastness of space and their superior numbers to overwhelm the Vexstar defenses. Some of the human craft carried specialized equipment that interfered with Vexstar sensors. Others deployed clouds of reflective material that confused targeting systems. The most daring attached directly to the alien vessels, planting devices that disrupted systems from the outside. It wasn't a traditional battle at all. It was asymmetric warfare on a cosmic scale. "War Chief," his second-in-command said urgently, 3 Federation peacekeeping fleets have been detected entering the system. They will be here within the hour." Juwu roared in frustration. His perfect revenge, his chance to restore honor to the Vexstar, was slipping away. Half his fleet was already disabled, not destroyed but unable to fight effectively. "Order all functional ships to target Earth directly," he commanded. "If we cannot win, we will at least leave their homeworld in ruins." The remaining Vexstar ships altered course, bringing their most powerful weapons to bear on the blue planet ahead. But the swarm of human vessels intensified their efforts, focusing now on weapons systems. On Earth, Doyen watched the battle unfold with tense hope. "They're trying to target the planet directly. All units concentrate on disabling their main weapons." The next 30 minutes were the most critical in human history. The small Earth ships took heavy losses as they deliberately placed themselves between the Vexstar weapons and their homeworld. Crews sacrificed themselves to attach disruptors to key weapon systems. When the Federation peacekeeping fleet finally arrived, they found an astonishing sight. The mighty Vexstar battle fleet floated in disarray, ships spinning without control, weapons offline, communications disrupted. Not destroyed, but thoroughly defeated. Admiral Sunwoo of the Federation forces opened a channel to both sides. This conflict is over by order of the Federation Council. Vexstar forces power down all remaining systems and prepare to be boarded. From his crippled flagship, War Chief Jiwoo watched bitterly as Federation ships surrounded his fleet. On his main screen, he could see the surviving human vessels regrouping. They had lost many ships, but Earth itself was untouched. "How?" he whispered. "How did they defeat us again?" Admiral Sunwoo's next transmission provided the answer, though not one Jiwoo wanted to hear. "War Chief Jiwoo, you were warned. Humans are off limits. We don't harm them. Now you understand why." The Federation Council chamber had never been so crowded. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the curved tiers of seats, with many more attending via hologram. At the center of the chamber stood a group of humans, the first official Earth delegation to address the full council. Ambassador Minjae stepped forward, her ceremonial robes reflecting Earth's diverse cultures. Beside her stood General Doyen, Dr. Jisoo, and a team of Earth's finest diplomats and scientists. They looked small compared to many of the alien representatives, but they stood tall with quiet confidence. "Honored council members," Minji began, her voice clear and steady. "We come before you to formally accept the Federation's invitation to join as full members, not merely a protected species." High Counselor Bumsuk nodded in acknowledgement. After the recent events, there can be no doubt that humanity has earned its place among the galactic community. Your defense against the Vexstar fleet demonstrated qualities the Federation values highly. The mention of the Vexstar caused a slight stir in the chamber. Many glanced toward the Vexstar delegation, which was notably smaller than before. Their once proud representatives sat in subdued silence, their military privileges within the Federation temporarily suspended after their unauthorized attack on Earth. "Before we proceed with the formal acceptance," Bumsuk continued, "there is one matter the Council feels must be addressed." He gestured to the side entrance of the chamber. "Former War Chief Jiwoo of the Vexstar has requested to speak with the human delegation." A murmur ran through the assembly. Jiwoo entered slowly, without the ornate armor that Vexstar warriors typically wore. His scales were dull, and he moved with the careful gait of someone still recovering from injuries. The failed attack on Earth had cost him everything: his rank, his honor, his future. General Doyen tensed slightly as Jiwoo approached. Their last encounter had been across a battlefield. Jiwoo stopped at a respectful distance, and to everyone's surprise, lowered himself to one knee before the human delegation. "I come before you without rank or title," he said, his voice rough but clear. "I led my warriors against your world in defiance of Federation law. We came with superior weapons, superior ships, and the absolute certainty of victory." He raised his eyes to meet Doyen's gaze directly. "We failed, not because our technology faltered, but because we fundamentally misunderstood what makes a species strong." Ambassador Minjae stepped forward. "Why did you attack us, Jiwoo?" Even after the warning was issued. "Pride," Jiwoo admitted simply. "The defeat on Mars colony shamed us. In our culture, to be outsmarted by what we saw as prey was unforgivable. I convinced myself and others that it was a fluke, that in a real battle our superior technology would prevail." "And now?" Dr. Jisoo asked quietly. "Now I understand what Elder Minji tried to tell us," Jiwoo replied. "Your strength is not in your claws or teeth or technology. It is in how you work together, how you adapt, how you think beyond conventional approaches." He paused, visibly struggling with what came next. "Why did you spare our warriors?" he asked Ambassador Minjae. "Your small vessels disabled our ships, But you could have destroyed us completely. You had every right to do so after we attacked your homeworld." The chamber went completely silent, all attention focused on Minji's answer. "Because that's what makes us human," she replied simply. "We fight when we must, but we don't destroy when there's another way. Your warriors were following orders. Once your ships were disabled, there was no need for further bloodshed." Ju's expression showed his confusion. In Vexstar culture, mercy is weakness. In human culture, Minji said, mercy is strength. It takes more courage to spare an enemy than to destroy them. The Federation Council watched this exchange with intense interest. Many species had joined the Federation over its long history, but few had entered with such a profound impact on existing members. Elder Minji, who had first recognized humanity's unique qualities, spoke up from her position among the senior counselors. "This is why the warning was issued. This is why humans are protected, not because they are weak, but because they represent something rare and valuable in our galaxy. The ability to evolve beyond conflict when possible, while remaining formidable when necessary." High Counselor Bumsuck stood. "Let the formal ceremony begin. Earth will join the Federation not as a junior member, as is customary for new species, but as a full member with all rights and responsibilities." The ceremony proceeded with the exchange of symbolic gifts and the signing of the Federation Charter by Ambassador Minji. As Earth officially became part of the galactic community, representatives from dozens of species came forward to establish direct relations with the human delegation. To everyone's surprise, Ju remained kneeling throughout the ceremony. When it concluded, he finally stood and approached Ambassador Minji once more. "I have one request," he said. "Among my people, there is interest in learning more about humans, not as enemies or prey, but as teachers." "Teachers?" General Doyen asked, clearly surprised. "Yes," Ju confirmed. "Your methods of adaptation, your creative problem-solving, your ability to work together despite differences, these are qualities some of us wish to understand better." Ambassador Minji smiled. "We would welcome cultural exchange with the Vexstar. Perhaps you could lead this initiative, Ju?" The former war chief looked startled. "Me? I led the attack on your world." "Which means you understand both sides," Minji pointed out. "You know your people's traditions and biases, and you've seen firsthand what humans can do. Who better to bridge the gap between us?" The Federation Council chamber erupted in applause as Ju bowed his head in acceptance. What had begun as enmity was transforming into something no one had anticipated: mutual respect. In the weeks that followed, the first human embassies opened across Federation space. Earth welcomed alien representatives and began the complex process of integrating with galactic society. The technological benefits were immediate: clean energy solutions, advanced medical treatments, faster space travel. But the exchange went both ways. Federation species found themselves drawn to human creativity, art, music, and cuisine. Human approaches to problem-solving and conflict resolution began to influence Federation policies. Most surprising of all was the transformation that took place on the Vexstar homeworld. Ju, once the most vocal opponent of humans, became their strongest advocate. He established a cultural exchange program that brought young Vexstar to Earth and sent human teachers to Vexstar training academies. 1 year after Earth joined the Federation, Ju stood before a group of Vexstar cadets at their most prestigious military academy. Behind him was a human instructor, teaching Earth strategies and philosophies. "Before you begin your training today," Ju told the cadets, "remember the most important lesson I learned through defeat. True strength is not measured by weapons or physical power, but by the ability to adapt, to show restraint when needed, and to recognize the value in those different from ourselves." A young cadet raised his hand. "But sir, how can we be strong if we abandon our warrior traditions?" "We don't abandon them," Ju explained. "We evolve them. The strongest warrior is not the one who destroys everything in his path, but the one who knows when to fight and when to learn." Across the galaxy, the Federation continued to grow and change, influenced by its newest members. The warning that had once seemed so mysterious to many species, humans are off limits, we don't harm them, was now understood as more than protection for a developing world. It was recognition of something valuable, something worth preserving. Elder Minji, watching these developments from the Federation Council, smiled to herself. In her long life, she had seen many species come and go, rise and fall. But humans promised something different, not dominance through force, but growth through connection. And former War Chief Juwu, once the embodiment of traditional Vexstar aggression, now traveled between worlds repeating the warning with newfound conviction. Humans are off limits. We don't harm them. Not because they were weak, but because their strength took forms the galaxy had never before witnessed and desperately needed.